Prologue. The moon has always watched us. Long before packs rose and alphas ruled, before silver bloodlines and sacred treaties, she carved destiny into the bones of wolves. She gave us mates, not just partners, but halves of a whole, souls that tether us through darkness and light. But destiny is rarely kind. Legends speak of rare bonds, of twin flames born into two bodies yet linked to one soul. Legends, yes, but legends often carry warnings. When such a bond awakens, the world either bends to its power, or breaks beneath it. I was Mira Parker, youngest daughter of the weakest pack in America. For 18 years, I dreamed of freedom, of the mate the moon would gift me. I thought my greatest fear was being ordinary, forgotten, left behind while others found their fated bonds. I was wrong. On the night I turned 18, my fate was stolen. My parents sold my future for the survival of our pack. They handed me over to the most feared heirs in the country, the twin alphas of the Bright Moon pack. One of them was promised to me. Both of them would change me. And the moon's prophecy whispered only one truth. When bound to twins, a wolf must rise, or the world will burn. Episode 1, The Treaty Bride. The night of my 18th birthday should have been a celebration. Wolves came of age under the glow of the full moon, blessed by the goddess, marked by destiny. Tonight should have been my night to shift for the first time, to feel the rush of my wolf taking form, to hear the moon whisper the name of my mate into my soul. But instead of freedom, I sat at a long oak table, hands folded in my lap, my parents' voices heavy with politics instead of joy. Mira, my father said, voice thick with exhaustion, as alpha of the Crescent River pack, it is my duty to protect our people. And that means securing our future through alliance. My stomach twisted. I had seen this look in his eyes before, when he announced border losses, when rogues raided our farms, when our warriors came home broken. But this time, his words didn't just weigh on the pack. They weighed on me. You will marry Nicholas Den, he said. The world tilted. My fork clattered against the plate, the sound far too loud in the silence of our small dining hall. What? My voice cracked like splintering glass. My mother flinched but kept her eyes on her wine glass. My father didn't blink. It is decided. The treaty is signed. On the next full moon, you will wed the Bright Moon heir. Nicholas Denver. The name itself was venom. Every pack knew the rumors, ruthless, cruel, heartless. A future alpha who treated women like conquests and enemies like prey. I had prayed, begged, the moon goddess never to bind me to someone like him. You're trading me like property, I whispered, my chest heaving. My father's jaw tightened. I am saving you. Saving all of us. Without Bright Moon's protection, Crescent River will not last another winter. This marriage will bind our packs together. It is survival. And what about love? My mate. My voice cracked, desperate. The one the moon chose for me. My mother's silence was answer enough. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I pushed back from the table so hard the chair toppled over, the sound echoing in the hall like a war drum. I won't do it. You will. My father's voice was iron. The treaty is sealed with blood. If you refuse, you doom us all. I ran before he could say more, my bare feet slapping against the cold stone floors, the air outside sharp as knives as I burst into the courtyard. Above me, the full moon blazed, silver light spilling across my skin like a blessing, or a curse. I stared up at her, chest heaving. Please, I whispered to the goddess. Don't let this be my fate. Don't chain me to him. But the moon was silent. The next day, the Bright Moon pack arrived. They came on black stallions, armored warriors gleaming under the sun, their banners whipping in the wind. Their alpha, Den Sr., rode at the front, but my eyes were drawn to the two figures flanking him. The twins. Nicholas rode with the arrogance of a king already crowned, his golden hair catching the light, his smirk sharp enough to draw blood. His gaze raked over me like I was already his possession, something to break, something to own. But beside him, Damien. Darker, quieter, his presence was a shadow to Nicholas's fire. His black hair fell across eyes the color of storm clouds, and though he said nothing, I felt his stare like a chain around my throat. 2 heirs. 1 future. And I was the prize. That night, the feast was held. My parents tried to pretend it was a celebration, but I could barely taste the food. Nicholas toasted to our union, his hand squeezing mine too tightly, his lips brushing my ear as he whispered promises that made my stomach churn. "You'll learn to obey, little wolf," he murmured. "And when you do, I'll make sure you enjoy it." I jerked my hand away, bile rising in my throat. Across the table, Damien's gaze lingered, unreadable. For a moment, I thought I saw pity. Or warning. I couldn't tell which. Later, when I slipped away to breathe under the stars, I felt him before I saw him. Damien stepped from the shadows, silent as the night. "You don't want this," he said. His voice was low, rough. "No," I whispered. "But I have no choice." His eyes caught the moonlight, sharp and endless. "Choice is an illusion. You'll learn that soon enough." And then he was gone, leaving me shivering in the dark, the sound of Nicholas's laughter echoing from the hall behind me. That night, as I lay awake, the moon goddess came to me in a dream. Her silver eyes burned like stars, her voice both tender and terrible. "Child of Crescent River," she said, "you cry for freedom, yet you walk into chains. 2 flames burn for you, one of fire, one of shadow. To deny them is to deny your destiny. To embrace them is to embrace ruin, or salvation." I reached for her, desperate. "Please, tell me what to do. How do I survive this?" But the goddess only smiled, sorrowful and proud, before fading into mist. I woke with tears on my face and one truth carved into my soul. The treaty had bound me to one twin. But the moon had bound me to both. Episode 2, Entering the Bright Moon Pack. The journey to Bright Moon was 3 days long, and every step felt like a chain dragging me closer to a prison. We rode through endless forests, the Bright Moon warriors flanking us in perfect formation. They were larger than any warriors from Crescent River, their discipline absolute, their silence more terrifying than shouts. Every now and then, Nicholas would glance at me, a cruel little smirk playing at his lips as though he already owned my body and soul. I kept my eyes on the road, the rain slick in my sweating palms, my chest tight. Beside Nicholas, Damien rode like a shadow, silent, unreadable, but ever present. If Nicholas was a flame that scorched everything in his path, Damien was ice, steady and unyielding. I felt his eyes on me more than once, but when I dared glance back, he would look away, as if caught. I told myself it didn't matter. Neither of them mattered. And yet, I couldn't silence the memory of the moon goddess's words, 2 flames burn for you, one of fire, one of shadow. On the 3rd day, the Bright Moon Pack lands came into view. High walls of black stone rose out of the earth, spiked towers scraping the sky. Banners of silver and midnight blue whipped violently in the wind, each one marked with the snarling crescent wolf of their crest. The gates groaned open, revealing a sprawling stronghold unlike anything I'd ever seen. Paved courtyards thrummed with warriors in training. Wolves sparred with brutal precision, their roars and snarls echoing against stone. The air smelled of sweat, steel, and power, a reminder that I was walking straight into the belly of the beast. My stomach knotted as Nicholas leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. "Welcome home, wife," he murmured. I stiffened, bile burning the back of my throat. The Den family mansion was a palace compared to my pack's worn halls. Gleaming marble, walls hung with tapestries depicting bright moon victories, chandeliers dripping crystal like frozen tears. Servants bowed as we passed, their eyes lowered, their movements quick. I tried to shrink into myself, but Nicholas wouldn't allow it. His arm hooked around my waist possessively as he dragged me forward, as though showing me off. "This is Mira Parker," he announced to no one and everyone at once, his voice carrying. "Future Luna of Bright Moon." The words fell like stones in my stomach. A title that sounded regal but felt like shackles. The whispers started immediately, slipping through the air like knives. "She's so small. Crescent River's runt. Why would Alpha Den bind her to our future?" My cheeks burned as laughter followed us down the hall. Nicholas only smirked, tightening his grip until my ribs ached. That night, a feast was held in my honor. I sat stiffly beside Nicholas at the long dining table. He leaned close, whispering lewd promises into my ear between sips of wine, his hand creeping higher along my thigh under the tablecloth. My skin crawled, but I forced myself to stay still, every muscle trembling with the effort of not jerking away. Across from us, Damien sat in silence. He hadn't touched his food, his storm-gray eyes fixed on me. Not leering like his brother, not mocking like the rest, just watching. The weight of his gaze made it impossible to breathe. When Nicholas finally stood to toast, bragging of our alliance and his future Luna, I slipped away, my legs shaky as I fled into the courtyard. The night air was cool, a balm against the heat of humiliation burning my skin. I didn't realize Damien had followed until his voice cut through the dark. "You need to learn quickly," he said, his tone low, hard. I spun, my heart leaping. "Learn what?" His expression was unreadable in the shadows. "That weakness will kill you here. Nicholas feeds on it. The pack feeds on it." Anger flared in my chest. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose. No one cares what you chose." His words were sharp, but there was something beneath them. Something like warning. "If you want to survive Bright Moon, you have to bury the girl you were. Or she'll be buried for you." And with that, he turned and melted back into the shadows, leaving me shaken and alone. The days that followed were a blur of suffocating lessons. The elder women of the pack drilled me in etiquette, reminding me with every sneer that I was less than, and would need to work twice as hard to earn even a shred of respect. Nicholas made sure I never forgot I was his possession. He paraded me through the training grounds, his arms slung around me as warriors smirked. He'd lean close, whispering vile things meant to make me blush, and when I did, he laughed, loud and cruel. But the worst came on the training field. Nicholas insisted I learn to fight, dragging me before the warriors as they circled like vultures. He tossed me a wooden sword, smirking as I fumbled to hold it. "Show them, little wolf," he sneered. "Show them what Crescent River breeds." The laughter was brutal, echoing in my skull as I swung clumsily, barely able to lift the weapon. My arms shook, my chest heaved, and Nicholas only laughed harder. "Pathetic," he spat, shoving me so hard I stumbled into the dirt. But when I looked up, Damien was watching. His expression gave nothing away, but his eyes, there was something there. A flicker. Pity. Warning. Something else. I didn't know. But in that moment, I swore to myself, would not break. Not here. Not like this. That night, I dreamed again of the moon goddess. She stood in a forest bathed in silver light, her eyes sorrowful as she looked at me. "Child," she whispered, "you think yourself powerless. But even a spark can ignite a wildfire. 2 flames burn for you, one will consume you, one will protect you. Yet both are yours. Choose wisely, or the world will drown in shadow." I reached for her, desperate, but she dissolved into mist, leaving only the echo of her warning. I woke with my heart pounding, a cold sweat slicking my skin. And for the first time, I realized, my fate wasn't just about me anymore. It was about two brothers. A pack. And maybe, the entire world. Episode 3, The First Night. The halls of Bright Moon were colder after dark. Torches flickered along the stone walls, their flames casting long, twisting shadows that seemed alive. The laughter and music of the feast still rang in my ears, but here, in the silence of Nicholas's wing of the mansion, it felt like I'd stepped into the mouth of some great beast. I followed him, every instinct screaming at me to run. But there was nowhere to go, not in a fortress surrounded by warriors, not in a pack where every stranger's eye held either suspicion or hunger. Nicholas pushed open a set of heavy double doors, revealing a chamber so large it could have fit my family's entire home. Dark wood, velvet drapes, furs strewn across the massive bed. A fire roared in the hearth, filling the room with heat that made my skin prickle. I froze at the threshold. "Come in," he drawled, glancing back at me with a smirk that sent a shiver down my spine. "It's our wedding night, little wolf. Best not to keep your husband waiting." The word husband landed like a blade. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him I wasn't his anything, but my voice caught in my throat. I forced my feet to move, each step heavier than the last. Nicholas shut the doors behind me, the sound echoing like a locked ceiling. He prowled toward me, all grace and menace, like a predator closing in on prey. His hand reached out, trailing along my cheek, down my jaw. His touch was possessive, not tender, a claim more than a caress. "You look terrified," he whispered, amused. "Good. Fear makes you beautiful." I flinched as his hand slid lower, gripping my chin to force my gaze up to his. His eyes were molten gold, sharp and cruel. "This alliance is more than politics, Mira. It's fate," he murmured, his lips brushing against my ear. "And fate says you're mine." My stomach twisted. I wanted to push him away, to claw and fight, but a single glance around the room reminded me of the truth. I was trapped. Outnumbered. Helpless. Nicholas's lips pressed against mine, hard, demanding. My body went rigid, my hands curling into fists at my sides. He laughed softly when I didn't respond, pulling back just enough to smirk. "You'll learn," he said. "They always do." The door creaked. Both our heads turned. Damien stood in the doorway, leaning casually against the frame, his expression unreadable. "Still parading your cruelty, brother?" he asked, his tone flat, cold. Nicholas growled, stepping back from me reluctantly. "Leave." Damien's gaze shifted to me. For a heartbeat, his gray eyes softened, though his face remained hard as stone. "Father wants you," he said to Nicholas. "Something about tomorrow's council with the border patrol." Nicholas cursed under his breath, glaring between us. Then he grabbed my wrist, yanking me forward so hard I stumbled. "Don't think his presence saves you," he hissed against my ear. "You're mine. Remember that." He shoved me back, the impact jolting through my chest, before storming past Damien and disappearing down the hall. Silence. Damien lingered in the doorway, the firelight casting sharp shadows across his face. I stood frozen, my heart racing, my wrist throbbing where Nicholas had gripped me. Shame burned hot beneath my skin, but so did a flicker of defiance. Damien finally spoke. "You shouldn't provoke him." My laugh was bitter, broken. I didn't provoke him. I breathed. For the first time, something cracked in his mask. His jaw tightened, his eyes flickered, anger, maybe, though I couldn't tell if it was for me or against me. "You don't understand him yet," Damien said. "But you will. And if you want to survive, you'll keep your head down." play the role. I met his gaze, forcing steel into my voice even though my knees threatened to give out. And what role is that? The helpless little wife. His toy. He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a soft click. The room seemed to shrink, the air between us charged. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming in a way completely different from Nicholas's. Not cruel, not mocking, just heavy. "Be careful, Mira," Damien murmured. "You don't know how dangerous this place really is." That night, when he left, I collapsed on the bed, shaking. My body still remembered Nicholas's grip, his kiss like a brand burned into my lips. But my mind clung to Damien's words, to the warning in his tone. Sleep didn't come easily. When it did, it dragged me back into the moon goddess's realm. She stood beneath a silver tree, her hair glowing like starlight, her eyes sorrowful. "Two brothers," she whispered. "Two paths. One of ruin, one of redemption. Yet both lead to blood." I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. Why me? Why them? I didn't choose this. She reached out, her fingers brushing against my cheek, cool and gentle. "You are the thread, child. Without you, the weave unravels." The ground trembled, shadows stretching toward me like claws. I screamed, reaching for her, but she dissolved again into mist, leaving me choking on darkness. I woke with a cry, clutching the sheets, my heart racing. The fire had burned low, casting the room in eerie half-light. And from the shadows of the corner, I swore I saw Damien's eyes, watching. Protecting. Or warning. Episode 4, Whispers of the Goddess. The sun never felt warm here. Back in my father's pack, dawn used to bring color, gold spilling across the hills, dew sparkling on the grass. Here in bright moon, the light was pale, sharp as glass. The mansion stood like a fortress carved out of stone, its towers cutting into the sky, swallowing every scrap of color. Even the birds seemed quieter, their songs drowned by the heavy silence of power. I woke in Nicholas's chambers, still stiff from the night before, every muscle locked in a state of half-readiness. The fire had burned low, leaving the room cold. The memory of his hands, his voice, clung to me like smoke. But when I opened my eyes, the room wasn't empty. Damien was there, standing by the window, his back to me. He didn't move when I stirred, didn't turn to acknowledge me. For a long moment, I thought he was just a shadow, but then he spoke. "You cried out in your sleep," he said. His voice was low, calm, but something in it made my skin prickle. I sat up quickly, clutching the sheets around me. "You were watching me." His head turned slightly, just enough for me to catch the glint of his gray eyes in the dim light. "I was making sure Nicholas hadn't," his voice trailed off. "Never mind." The door opened suddenly, cutting the moment short. Nicholas strode in, his presence filling the room like a storm. "Well," he sneered, his golden eyes narrowing. "Did my little bride rest well?" I forced myself not to shrink back. "I did." "A lie." My voice cracked on it. Nicholas's smirk widened as if he could taste the fear in it. He crossed the room, brushing past Damien with deliberate force. For a moment, the air between the two brothers crackled, unspoken hostility, restrained violence. Then Nicholas grabbed my chin, forcing me to look up at him. "Good. You'll need your strength." That morning marked the beginning of what they called Luna's training. It wasn't training, not really. It was breaking. I was paraded before a line of women, pack members, warriors, advisors' wives. They studied me with sharp eyes, whispering behind painted nails. Some looked curious, others outright disgusted. "She's too small," one woman murmured. "She doesn't carry herself like a Luna," another said. A weak wolf for a strong alpha. Shameful. Their words sliced through me, but Nicholas only stood at the end of the hall, arms crossed, smirking as though enjoying a show. I was taught how to walk, not too fast, not too slow, always with my head lowered but never bowed. How to speak, not too loud, not too soft, my tone sweet but never submissive. How to smile, pleasant enough to charm allies, cold enough to silence rivals. Hours blurred into exhaustion. When I stumbled, a sharp slap on the wrist corrected me. When I faltered, mocking laughter followed. By the end of the day, my body ached, my mind numb. Nicholas appeared in the training chamber just as the sun dipped low. He circled me slowly, his gaze predatory, his smirk cruel. "Not bad," he said, his fingers brushing along my jaw as if inspecting a piece of property. "You might even pass for a Luna, if you try hard enough." His words made my stomach twist. I wanted to scream at him, to throw his touch off me, but I stayed still, silent, my nails digging crescents into my palms. And in the corner of the room, Damien watched. Always watching. That night, exhaustion dragged me into sleep quickly. But it wasn't rest. The dream took me again, sweeping me into silver mist and endless shadows. The moon goddess waited beneath her silver tree, her hair glowing brighter this time, her eyes sharp with urgency. "Child," she whispered, her voice like wind through leaves. The threads tighten. I stepped toward her, my breath catching. "What do you mean? What threads?" She touched my chest, right over my racing heart. "Two fates coil around you. One of desire. One of destruction. Which you choose will decide more than your life. It will decide the balance of the packs, the rise or fall of the bloodline." My knees trembled. "Nicholas. Damien." Her expression flickered with sadness. "Twins. Shadows of the same flame. One bound by rage, the other by silence. Both dangerous. Both yours." Her words made no sense, but before I could ask more, the ground cracked beneath me, shadows pouring upward like a flood. The goddess's hand gripped mine. Her eyes glowed, fierce. "Remember this, Mira. The wolf inside you is not weak. She is silver. She is fire. When the time comes, let her roar." Her voice thundered in my ears, and then I was falling, down, down, into the darkness. I woke with a scream. The fire in the hearth was out, the room cold. My skin was damp with sweat, my breath ragged. From the shadows near the door, a low voice spoke. "You dream loudly. Damien." Again. My chest tightened. "Why are you always here?" He didn't answer immediately. Then, softly, "Because someone has to be." For a moment, I swore I saw something flicker across his face, a crack in the mask. Pain. Regret. Maybe even, protectiveness. But then it was gone. And I was left staring into the darkness, the moon goddess's words burning in my mind. Twins. Shadows of the same flame. Both dangerous. Both yours. Episode 5, Twin Flames. The halls of the Bright Moon Mansion were colder than ever. By the fifth day, I had learned how to move without drawing too much attention, how to lower my gaze just enough to avoid insult but not enough to seem broken. Every step was measured, every breath calculated. But still, the whispers followed me. She doesn't belong here. The Alpha could have chosen any Luna. Why her? She's weak. Fragile. A mistake. The words trailed after me like shadows, heavy and sharp. Nicholas thrived on them. At dinner, he leaned close, his arm draped over the back of my chair like a cage. His golden eyes gleamed with amusement as pack members sneered and murmured about me. Do you hear them, little Luna? He whispered, his breath hot against my ear. They doubt you. They doubt us. Should I silence them for you? The way he said it, half threat, half promise, made my pulse race. I swallowed hard. No. His smile curved cruelly. Good. I enjoy their doubt. It will make breaking them sweeter when you stand beside me and they bow at your feet. Breaking them. Not winning them. Not uniting them. Nicholas only ever spoke of destruction, of domination. And yet, sometimes, when his gaze lingered too long, when his hands lingered on mine in public, I swore I saw something else flicker behind the cruelty. Something I couldn't name. The next morning, I was summoned to the training grounds. I thought it would be another round of etiquette drills or more Luna's lessons. Instead, I was handed a bow. You'll hunt with us, Nicholas said, his voice like steel. It's tradition for the Luna to join the Alpha in the hunt. Consider this your trial. The pack's warriors smirked, eyes gleaming with mockery. They expected me to fail. The woods stretched dark and endless, the trees thick with shadows. The air carried the metallic tang of blood, the thrill of the chase. Wolves prowled ahead, their growls echoing. I tried to steady my breathing, gripping the bow tighter. My hands shook. Stay close, Nicholas said, his voice low near my ear. Or the forest will swallow you whole. I wanted to snap at him, to tell him I wasn't his fragile pet. But before I could, the hunt began. Wolves surged forward, claws tearing the ground. Shouts rose through the trees, arrows whistled past. The prey, a massive stag with antlers like twisted branches, bolted through the underbrush. I ran, heart hammering, lungs burning. Branches clawed my skin, roots caught my feet. I stumbled, almost fell, until strong hands steadied me. Damien. His gray eyes locked on mine for a fleeting second, sharp and unreadable. Then he released me, vanishing into the trees like a shadow. The hunt turned chaotic fast. I lost sight of Nicholas, lost sight of everyone. The forest pressed close, heavy and suffocating. My breaths came ragged, fear clawing at my throat. Then I heard it. Growls. Low, guttural. Not wolves of bright moon. Rogues. They stepped out from the shadows, 3 of them, eyes glowing red, teeth bared. Panic surged. I raised the bow, my hands trembling, the arrow slipping from my grasp. The rogues circled, snarling, closing in. One lunged. I screamed. And in an instant, Nicholas was there. He slammed into the rogue with brutal force, his claws ripping through fur and flesh. Blood sprayed the trees as he tore the beast apart, his golden eyes wild with fury. Mine, he roared, his voice shaking the forest. She is mine. The other rogues snarled, leaping toward me. But before they could strike, another figure cut through the shadows, Damien. His movements were silent, precise, deadly. His claws sank into one rogue's throat, his fangs into another. Within seconds, both were crumpled on the ground, lifeless. I stood frozen, chest heaving, staring at the 2 brothers. Nicholas, covered in blood, panting, rage burning in his eyes. Damien, calm and cold, his gray gaze flicking to me just once before looking away. The rogues lay dead at their feet. And for the first time, the brothers stood together, united not in brotherhood, but in violence. Afterward, Nicholas dragged me back to the mansion, his grip iron around my wrist. You could have died, he snarled, slamming me against the wall of his chambers. His eyes blazed, his chest heaved. You think you can wander alone in my woods? You think you can risk yourself when you belong to me? His fury radiated heat, his hand tight on my chin. But beneath it, I saw something else. Fear. You were afraid, I whispered, breathless. His grip tightened. I wasn't afraid. I was angry. But I knew the truth. His rage wasn't just cruelty, it was terror, buried so deep he couldn't admit it even to himself. Nicholas pressed his forehead to mine, his voice rough, almost broken. Don't you ever leave my side again. And before I could speak, his lips crushed against mine, fierce and desperate, fire burning through every inch of me. That night, when I finally escaped his chambers and collapsed into uneasy sleep, the dream came again. The moon goddess stood before me, her silver hair swirling like smoke, her eyes luminous. You have awakened the flames, she whispered. I shook my head. I don't understand. Her voice rose, echoing like thunder. 2 flames burn for you. Twin fires. Twin fates. One will consume you. One will complete you. And you must choose. The world around me split in 2, golden fire on one side, silver flame on the other. Both reached for me, both seared me. I screamed, torn between them. And the goddess's voice followed me into the dark. Twin flames. Twin alphas. Both yours. But only one truth. Episode 6, Chains of Duty. The next dawn arrived with the toll of a bell. Its clang echoed through the bright Moon Pack mansion like the strike of a war drum, pulling me from fragile sleep. I woke with Nicholas's scent still clinging to my skin, smoke, cedar, and something darker, rawer. His kiss from last night haunted me, wild and scorching, leaving me restless with both longing and dread. But there was no time to dwell. The bell meant only one thing, the Luna's trial. When I stepped into the great hall, the atmosphere shifted. Every elder, every warrior, every ranking wolf was present, their gazes sharp, unyielding. At the far end of the hall sat Alpha Den, Nicholas and Damien's father, broad, cold, his eyes like sharpened steel. Beside him were the pack's elders, their robes draped heavy with years of power. And in the center, a chair. Not a throne. Not a seat of honor. A chair of judgment. Mira Parker, an elder announced, his voice booming, today you face the first of your duties as future Luna of Bright Moon. The word duty felt like a noose tightening around my neck. Nicholas stood at my side, tall and commanding. His hand brushed mine, grounding and terrifying all at once. She'll pass, he said with chilling certainty, golden eyes sweeping the room. Because she is mine. And no one questions what is mine. Murmurs rippled through the hall, half agreement, half disdain. Damien lingered in the shadows, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. He didn't speak, but his gray eyes never left me. The trial began. The first test was obedience. An elder commanded, bow before the Alpha, as a Luna must. Nicholas's gaze burned into me, demanding. The room waited. My pride screamed against it. I was no one's servant, no one's pet. Yet the weight of dozens of eyes pressed down on me. Slowly, I bent my knees, lowering myself before Alpha Denver. The silence cracked with approval. But inside, something snapped. The second test was loyalty. I was given a silver dagger, its blade sharp enough to split the air. A rogue prisoner was dragged forward, bound and trembling. Strike him, the elder ordered. Show your loyalty to the pack by shedding the blood of its enemies. My stomach twisted. The rogue was barely conscious, more boy than beast, his face marred with scars of desperation. His eyes met mine, pleading silently. My hand shook around the dagger. Nicholas's voice cut through the air, low and dangerous. Do it, Mira. Prove you are my Luna. And then Damien's voice, quiet but clear, pierced the silence. Duty without mercy is just another chain. I froze. 2 voices. Two paths. The elders grew impatient, their whispers turning sharp. The boy whimpered. Finally, I dropped the dagger. It clattered against the stone floor, ringing like defiance. Gasps filled the hall. Nicholas's hand clamped around my wrist, his grip bruising. Fury burned in his eyes. You defy me. But before I could speak, Damien stepped forward. She shows strength, he said flatly. To resist cruelty when cruelty is demanded, that is power. The room erupted in argument. By the time the trial ended, I had passed nothing in their eyes. I was weak, disobedient, unworthy. But Nicholas didn't release me. He dragged me from the hall, his fury a storm. In his chambers, he slammed the door shut, pinning me against it. You humiliated me, he growled, his voice vibrating with rage. In front of my father. In front of the elders. Do you understand what you've done? Tears pricked my eyes, but I forced my voice steady. I will not kill for your approval. I will not bow because you command it. A Luna is more than your shadow, Nicholas. For a heartbeat, silence. His golden eyes widened, not with fury, but something else. Confusion. Pain. Then he leaned in, his forehead against mine, his voice breaking. You don't understand. If they don't accept you, they will tear you from me. And I won't let them. The rawness in his tone shook me more than his rage ever could. Damien Den, the ruthless future alpha, was afraid. That night, sleep refused to come. I wandered the balcony, moonlight spilling over me. And there he was, Damien, leaning against the railing, his expression softened by the silver glow. You were brave, he said quietly. I shook my head. I was reckless. I put myself, and maybe the pack, in danger. He turned to face me fully, his gray eyes piercing. No. You reminded them that duty is not the same as slavery. Remember that, Mira. Duty can be a choice. Or it can be a chain. You must decide which it will be. His words lingered long after he left, echoing in my chest like a second heartbeat. Days later, the public ceremony arrived. The entire pack gathered under the full moon, a sea of faces lit by silver light. Nicholas stood tall at the altar, power radiating from him like fire. Damien stood just behind, shadow and steel. I was led forward in a gown of white, the fabric heavy with expectation. My hands shook, my heart thundered. The elder's voice carried over the crowd. Tonight, Mira Parker stands before Bright Moon Pack as the chosen Luna. She will pledge her chains of duty to the Alpha, binding her fate to the pack forever. Chains of duty. The words seared my skin. Nicholas extended his hand, golden eyes burning. Behind him, Damien's gaze caught mine, steady, silent. The crowd held its breath. And in that moment, I felt it, the goddess's presence, a shimmer in the air, a whisper in my soul. Two chains. Two flames. Choose wisely, child. My heart wrenched. Nicholas's hand waited, fierce and demanding. Damien's eyes held me, quiet and unyielding. The entire pack watched, their fate tied to mine. And I knew, whatever I chose tonight would ignite a fire none of us could control. Episode 7, Secrets of Blood. The night air hung heavy, thick with tension. The full moon poured silver fire over the gathered pack, their expectant eyes fixed on me. Nicholas's hand stretched toward me, unwavering, demanding my pledge. Damien stood behind him, silent as stone, but his gray eyes pierced into me, pulling me toward another truth. The elder's voice boomed once more, chains of duty. Tonight, Mira Parker pledges herself to the Alpha, her bond binding all of us. Chains. Duty. Bond. Words that should have sounded sacred felt instead like shackles around my throat. My heartbeat roared so loud it drowned out the murmurs of the crowd. Nicholas's golden eyes burned with command, with possession. Damien's held something else, warning, sorrow, maybe even protection. The moon goddess's whisper echoed again in my skull, 2 flames. 2 chains. 1 path forged in blood. I hesitated. And in that hesitation, the first crack in their perfect ritual split wide open. Suddenly, a voice cut through the night. She cannot swear. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The speaker was Elder Marcellus, his wrinkled hand clutching a parchment, his eyes blazing with triumph. Before this Luna pledges herself, the truth must be known. The blood in her veins is not what you believe. My breath froze. Nicholas stiffened beside me, rage flashing across his face. What nonsense is this? Marcellus unrolled the parchment with deliberate care. A sealed record. Kept hidden at the council's request. Mira Parker, daughter not only of Black River's Alpha, but tied by blood to, his voice dropped lower, venomous. The silver bloodline. The words landed like a blade to the heart of every wolf present. Murmurs rose into shouts. The crowd churned like a storm. Silver bloodline, the words carried prophecy, danger, power. What lies are these? Nicholas roared, but his grip on my wrist betrayed unease. His father, Alpha Den, leaned forward from his throne, his eyes gleaming coldly. Show it, Den commanded. Marcellus thrust the parchment high. Her mother was not merely a Luna. She carried the dormant mark of the silver wolf. This girl, his hand jabbed toward me, is the vessel of prophecy, a threat as much as she is a prize. The air thickened. Some wolves recoiled, whispers of curse and destiny spreading like fire. Others stared at me with awe, as though my skin already shimmered with divinity. I couldn't breathe. My mother had never spoken of this. My father, had he known? Or had the truth been buried so deep even he couldn't reach it? Nicholas snarled, stepping in front of me like a shield. You dare to question my Luna with half-baked prophecies. But Alpha Den rose slowly, his authority cutting sharper than any blade. Quiet, Nicholas. This cannot be ignored. His gaze fell upon me, heavy and suffocating. Mira. Did you know of this? Did your father speak of your blood? My lips trembled. I don't know. I was never told. But inside, something stirred. The whisper of the moon goddess again, stronger this time, blood never lies. The chains you bear are forged in silver. My knees weakened. My vision blurred. And then, flashes. Memories not my own. My mother's face, pale and desperate, chanting words of protection. A glow around me as an infant. Chains of silver binding something dark within. I stumbled back, clutching my chest. Chaos erupted. She is cursed, one wolf spat. She is chosen, another argued. Elders bickered, warriors bristled, the entire pack teetering on the edge of fracture. Damien stepped forward at last, his voice cutting through the chaos like steel. Enough. All eyes snapped to him. His gray gaze fell on me, softer than his tone. This revelation doesn't change who she is. But it changes everything about what will be done to her. Nicholas snarled. You think I'll let them touch her? She is mine. Damien's eyes flickered, shadows darkening his face. That's the problem, brother. You see her as possession. But she is prophecy. And prophecy isn't yours to cage. The brothers faced each other, tension crackling. Careful, Nicholas growled, stepping closer. You sound like you want her for yourself. Damien didn't flinch. I want her free. That is the difference. The air between them vibrated with centuries of sibling rivalry, magnified now by my presence. The pack held its breath, sensing that one wrong word could ignite war within their own walls. Alpha Den's voice boomed again, commanding silence. Enough. Mira's blood is no longer a private matter. From this moment, she will be tested. If the prophecy is true, then only by fire can her worth be proven. My stomach dropped. Tested? What kind of test? Den's lips curved into something cruel. The kind that decides whether you are a Luna, or a weapon. That night, I was confined, not to Nicholas's chambers, but to the ritual chamber deep beneath the bright moon stronghold. The walls shimmered with runes, glowing faintly under torchlight. I was alone, save for my own pounding heart. But not for long. The door creaked open. Damien slipped inside, his presence quiet but unshakable. He carried no torch, the shadows themselves seemed to bend to him. You shouldn't be here, I whispered. Neither should you, he murmured. They'll try to break you. Twist your blood into proof of prophecy. I shivered. And if I fail? His eyes, gray as storm clouds, softened. Then Nicholas will chain you tighter. Den will use you. The elders will fear you. But if you survive, his voice caught. If you survive, Mira, you won't belong to anyone but yourself. The way he said it made my chest ache. As though he already believed I was more than both their chains. But before I could reply, Nicholas burst through the opposite door, fury etched into his every line. What are you doing here, Damien? His voice thundered against the walls. Plotting to steal what's mine. Damien didn't move. Protecting her. Nicholas's fist clenched, golden eyes blazing. She doesn't need your protection. She has me. I stepped between them, trembling. Stop this. Both of you. This isn't about who owns me, it's about what I am, what they want to make me into. My words silenced them both. For a heartbeat, the weight of truth pressed down, heavier than their rivalry. But the night wasn't done with us. The runes along the wall suddenly flared, silver light searing across the chamber. The ground shook. I fell to my knees, clutching my chest as a surge of energy ripped through me. A voice, not mine, not human, boomed from my throat, the silver wolf rises. Chains shall break. Blood shall bind. The torches exploded, plunging us into flickering darkness. Nicholas lunged toward me, catching me before I collapsed. His arms were strong, desperate, trembling. Damien stared, shock etched across his face. The prophecy had spoken. And I was no longer just Mira Parker, the arranged Luna. I was the vessel of something greater. Something dangerous. By dawn, the news had already spread through Bright Moon Pack, the silver bloodline was awake. Some wolves bowed when they saw me, whispers of "Queen" on their lips. Others spat at the ground, muttering curse and doom. But one truth became clear, my blood had shifted the balance of power forever. And as Nicholas and Damien watched me from opposite sides of the hall, one burning with possession, the other with protection, I realized my choices were no longer my own. I was prophecy. I was power. I was the secret they all wanted to claim. Episode 8, Betrayal at the Altar. The dawn of the next full moon broke over Bright Moon's fortress like a blade drawn across the horizon. The air was cold, sharp with omen, as if the land itself knew that tonight would be written in blood. The courtyard had been transformed into a sacred altar. White banners laced with silver thread fluttered against the twilight wind, torches lined the path, and at the heart of it all stood the stone dais carved with centuries of runes. This was where Alpha's sons were wed. This was where Lunas were bound. And tonight, it was where I was to be sealed, not merely to Nicholas, but to a destiny I could no longer deny. The prophecy's echo still throbbed in my bones. Since the night the runes flared, whispers followed me wherever I walked: silver wolf, chosen one, cursed mate. I felt every stare from the bright moon wolves like hooks dragging against my skin, half awe, half suspicion. Some bowed when I passed. Others turned their backs. Nicholas walked at my side like a golden shield, his possessive hand on my waist a warning to everyone: she is mine. But I wasn't his. Not truly. Not yet. And deep inside, I feared I never could be. The night came fast. The altar shone beneath the moon's glow, the runes pulsing faintly as if alive. Wolves filled the courtyard, ranks upon ranks in solemn silence. Elders gathered, robed in silver. Eighteenth Den sat high upon his throne, his expression carved in iron, watching with the weight of judgment. And Nicholas stood tall at the altar, radiant and ruthless, the heir of bright moon, every inch the man they wanted me to marry. His golden eyes locked on me, fierce with determination. Damien lingered in the shadows, further back, his presence unmistakable though he said nothing. His storm-gray gaze burned into me with questions I couldn't answer. Was I walking toward my salvation, or my ruin? The elder priest raised his staff. His voice thundered, ancient words carried by the wind. Tonight, under the gaze of the goddess, we bind Eighteenth Den to Mira Parker. Tonight, we honor the prophecy not with fear, but with chains forged in devotion. Chains. Always chains. My knees trembled beneath the white silk gown they had forced upon me, my wrists heavy with silver cuffs inlaid with runes. I felt less like a bride and more like a prisoner dressed for sacrifice. Nicholas extended his hand, commanding, expectant. Mira, he murmured low enough for me alone, take it. End this doubt. You are mine, and no one, not my father, not my brother, not prophecy, will take you away. I hesitated. My fingers hovered over his. The runes flared brighter. The crowd leaned forward as one. And that was when the betrayal struck. The first scream shattered the silence. From the crowd's edge, a warrior fell with a silver dagger buried in his chest. Another collapsed, throat slit before he could howl. Chaos erupted, shadows broke from the ranks, wolves not of bright moon but rogues, their eyes wild, their blades dripping. The altar was under attack. Protect the Alpha, voices roared. Nicholas pulled me behind him, his claws bursting from his hands as he bared his teeth. Traitors. But the rogues weren't aiming for him. Their eyes locked on me. Take the girl, one howled. I stumbled backward, heart hammering. Why me? Why now? Then the answer came. Among the chaos, Elder Marcellus strode forward, no longer feigning loyalty. His parchment of prophecy burned in his grip, his eyes alight with fanatic fire. The silver wolf belongs not to bright moon, he shouted. The council will never allow Den's son to wield her power. Seize her. Deliver her to those who will fulfill the true prophecy. Betrayal. At the altar, in front of them all. Wolves clashed. Blood sprayed. The sacred courtyard became a battlefield. Nicholas fought savagely, golden aura blazing as he tore through attackers, but there were too many. His roar shook the air, but his power wasn't enough to shield both himself and me. Damien moved like a shadow, blades in both hands, cutting down rogues with ruthless precision. His gray eyes found me through the carnage. Mira. Run. I couldn't. My legs refused to move. The prophecy's voice screamed inside me, louder than the clash of steel, blood shall bind. Chains shall break. The altar will burn. Nicholas snarled, dragging me back against his chest. His breath was hot at my ear. Do not listen to him. You are mine. You stay with me. But even as he spoke, a dagger whistled through the air. It struck Nicholas across the shoulder, blood spilling hot across my gown. He staggered, still refusing to let me go. His eyes blazed with fury, not fear. Damien was there in an instant, his blade blocking another strike. "Nicholas, she'll die here if you don't release her." "I'll never release her," Nicholas roared. And in that moment, something inside me broke. The runes beneath the altar ignited, blinding white. A surge of energy ripped through my veins, silver fire flooding every nerve. My scream tore the sky, not of fear but of awakening. Wolves froze mid-battle. The earth shook. The torches extinguished in a gust of wind that carried my voice. The silver wolf rises. Chains shall not bind her. My cuffs shattered, silver shards scattering. Light burst from my skin, forcing rogues to their knees. Even Nicholas staggered back, eyes wide with shock. Damien shielded his face, awe shadowing his features. The prophecy wasn't just words. It was alive in me. And it demanded blood. I raised my hands, and the silver fire obeyed. It lashed out in streams, striking traitors down, burning through their blades, their screams echoing into the night. The altar split beneath my feet, ancient stone cracking as though the goddess herself had driven her fist into the earth. The battle turned. Rogues fled, blinded by the blaze. Warriors of Bright Moon rallied behind Nicholas, their cries mingling with the roar of power surging through me. But at the heart of it all, I stood alone, trembling, burning, terrified of what I had become. When the fire finally dimmed, silence fell. Smoke rose from charred stone. Bodies lay strewn across the courtyard. Blood stained the altar. All eyes turned to me. Not as a bride. Not as a Luna. But as something else entirely. Nicholas's chest heaved, his wound bleeding freely, but his eyes locked on me with something raw, fear, rage, obsession. "You are mine," he whispered, as if saying it enough could make it true. Damien stood further back, his blade dripping, his gray gaze filled with something different. Not possession. Not fear. But recognition. The prophecy had spoken. The betrayal had been revealed. And I realized the altar was never meant to bind me. It was meant to break me free. That night, Bright Moon Pack fractured. Some wolves swore loyalty to me, their silver queen. Others clung to Nicholas, their rightful heir. And in the shadows, Elder Marcellus escaped with survivors, carrying whispers of council plots and unfinished prophecy. The war wasn't over. It had just begun. And as I stood beneath the ruined altar, the blood of traitors cooling at my feet, I finally understood. I wasn't the pawn of this story. I was the weapon. Episode 9, The War of Wolves. The ruins of the altar still smoked under the cold moonlight, a scar carved into Bright Moon's sacred grounds. Stone lay shattered, bodies burned where the silver fire had touched them. But the real wound was deeper, unseen, the fracture inside the pack. For centuries, Bright Moon had stood as the strongest wolf clan in America, feared and respected. Tonight, it was broken. Wolves whispered in the corridors, warriors eyed each other with suspicion, and families no longer knew who they could trust. Some bowed to Nicholas, still their heir, their alpha-to-be. Others whispered of me, the silver wolf, the prophecy incarnate. And the air, heavy with tension, promised one thing, war. I couldn't sleep. The vision of the altar replayed every time I closed my eyes, Nicholas's blood on my hands, the silver fire roaring out of me, Damien's eyes in the shadows watching not with fear, but with recognition. I sat at the window of my chamber, the moon silvering my skin, feeling the wolf inside me stir, restless and wild. She was no longer silent. Since the altar, she whispered constantly, urging me to move, to fight, to claim. We are not prey. We are power. They cannot chain us. Yet my human heart ached. I had wanted none of this, not to be bride, not to be queen, not to be weapon. But fate didn't ask. It demanded. The door slammed open. Nicholas strode in, his shoulder still bandaged, fury written across his face. You should have stayed behind me, he snarled. You should have let me protect you. But instead, he grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. You unleashed something none of us can control. I tore my arm free, the silver fire flickering instinctively across my skin. You don't own me, Nicholas. Not anymore. His golden eyes blazed, a storm of obsession and desperation. You are mine, Mira. The prophecy binds you to me. Every wolf saw it. Every wolf felt it. And I'll kill anyone who tries to take you away, including my brother. My heart clenched. Damien is not your enemy. Nicholas laughed bitterly. He has always been. Don't be fooled by his shadows. He wants you, too. But you are mine. He leaned close, his voice a growl. And if the pack must be torn apart to keep you, so be it. It was then I realized Nicholas wasn't just a man. He was becoming something else, consumed by power, by prophecy, by his own obsession. And nothing would stop him. By dawn, the war began. The first blood was spilled at the training grounds when two groups of warriors clashed, one wearing Nicholas's crest, the other carrying no banner but whispering my name. Steel rang, claws tore, and the compound echoed with screams. I ran toward the chaos, Damien intercepting me. His blade was already slick with blood. Stay back, he warned, eyes dark. I can't, I said. This is because of me. I have to stop it. You can't stop what's already begun. His hand caught mine, rough and calloused. But you can choose how it ends. Nicholas appeared then, cutting down two warriors with terrifying strength. He was radiant with rage, golden aura spilling like wildfire. His voice thundered. Any who stand against me stand against Bright Moon. Stand against your alpha. But half the wolves didn't yield. They held back, a single cry rising, Silver Wolf. Silver Queen. The pack was divided, and blood stained the earth. The battle consumed the grounds. Wolves shifted, bodies colliding in fur and fangs. Swords clashed against claws. Families fought families, brothers fought brothers. The scent of blood and fear thickened the air until it choked. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't choose. Nicholas, my supposed mate, the one fate chained me to, fought like a beast, merciless and unstoppable. Damien, silent and steady, cut down traitors with deadly precision, but his eyes never left me, as though waiting for my choice to tip the scale. The prophecy burned inside me. Blood shall bind. Chains shall break. The war of wolves shall crown the queen. And suddenly, I knew. This war would not end with Nicholas's victory or Damien's. It would end with mine. I stepped onto the battlefield. Silver fire burst from me in a wave, forcing every wolf to stagger back. The air crackled with power as my wolf roared inside, her voice layered with mine. Enough. The fighting stilled. Eyes turned, hundreds of wolves crouching, torn between awe and fear. The runes of the prophecy ignited across my skin, glowing in lines of silver, burning brighter than the torches. Nicholas, I said, my voice carrying like thunder. This is not your war. This is not Bright Moon's war. This is mine. He bared his teeth, golden eyes blazing. You are mine, Mira. You don't get to decide. Yes, I whispered, silver fire flaring until even the moon dimmed. I do. Nicholas lunged at me. Damien shouted my name, but I didn't flinch. The silver wolf surged, wrapping me in light. Nicholas struck, and was hurled back as if he'd hit a wall of steel. His body crashed against the stones, yet he rose again, furious, unstoppable. "Fight me, Mira," he roared. "If you want freedom, prove it." And so, under the blood moon, I fought the man who was supposed to be my mate. Claws met light. His golden aura clashed against my silver flames, sparks exploding in the night. Each strike shook the ground, cracked stone, and sent wolves scattering. He was powerful, the heir of bright moon, but my wolf was something older, something divine. The prophecy wasn't just words, it was power, and it coursed through me like fire and storm. Nicholas screamed with fury, driving me back. "You cannot escape fate." And I screamed back, "Fate is mine to claim." Silver fire erupted, blinding and absolute. Nicholas was thrown to his knees, beaten, panting, his golden eyes dim. For the first time, fear flickered there. The battlefield fell silent. Wolves lowered their heads, waiting. The choice was mine. Damien stepped forward, his gray gaze steady, voice low. "Mira, end it. Or spare him. But decide. Because the pack will follow whatever you choose." Nicholas's voice rasped, broken but defiant. "If you kill me, you kill Bright Moon. Without me, you are nothing but a cursed wolf." My hand burned with silver fire. One strike, and it would be over. His blood, my freedom. But my wolf whispered, "Chains break not with blood, but with choice." I lowered my hand. The fire dimmed. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I looked Nicholas in the eyes. "You are no longer my alpha. No longer my mate. I release you." And with those words, the bond shattered. The silver light tore between us, snapping like chains breaking. Nicholas screamed, his body convulsing, then collapsing, the golden aura extinguished. He wasn't dead, but he was broken. The war of wolves ended not with his death, but with my claim. The courtyard was silent, wolves kneeling one by one. Not to Nicholas. Not to Damien. But to me. "Mira," they whispered. "Silver Queen." I stood in the moonlight, breath ragged, heart torn, but unbroken. For the first time, I wasn't anyone's daughter. I wasn't anyone's mate. I was myself. And the war of wolves had crowned me. Episode 10, Queen of the Twin Alphas. The battlefield still smelled of blood. Ash clung to the ruins of Bright Moon's altar, smoke curling from the shattered stones. Wolves knelt in silence, eyes downcast, their bodies trembling not from fear of Nicholas anymore, but from awe of me. The war of wolves had ended, and yet, I felt no victory in my chest, only a hollow ache, as though part of me had died in the fire. Nicholas lay broken at my feet, his golden aura extinguished, his pride shattered. His body heaved with shallow breaths, his once commanding voice reduced to a rasp. Damien stood a few steps away, blade still slick with blood, his eyes dark with the weight of unspoken words. And all around us, the pack whispered. "Silver Queen." She broke him. The prophecy. I felt the weight of their stares, their kneeling forms, their surrender. It was not triumph, it was a crown forged in blood, thrust upon me by fate. The council arrived at dawn. The great hall of Bright Moon was filled with shadows and whispers as the supernatural lords gathered, vampire princes, witch priestesses, fey emissaries cloaked in starlight. Their eyes burned with judgment, their voices sharp as blades. Killian, the high judge, his hair as white as snow, his gaze piercing as steel, stood before me. "You have broken herself the war," he said, his voice echoing. "But you have also broken the bond of the moon goddess. Tell us, Mira of the Silver Wolf, what claim do you have now, over this pack, over this throne?" The hall grew silent. Every eye waited for me to speak. I stepped forward, silver fire still faint on my skin, my wolf restless within. My claim, I said, my voice steady though my heart thundered, is not born of conquest or blood. It is born of choice. I chose to end Nicholas's reign without killing him. I chose to break the chains of prophecy. And I choose now to lead, not as someone's mate, not as someone's daughter, but as myself. As your silver queen. The words echoed, heavy and final. The council studied me, whispers rising like wind. Some nodded, others frowned. Power shifted in the air, old laws bending, breaking. But Nicholas's voice cut through the whole. She cannot rule, he rasped, dragging himself upright. His face was pale, his body trembling, but his rage burned undimmed. She is a curse. She broke the goddess's bond. She defied fate. If you follow her, you will damn us all. Gasps rippled through the chamber. His words carried weight, he was still the Alpha's heir, still bound by centuries of law. Damien's voice rang out, low and cutting. No, brother. You damned yourself when you put obsession before the pack. Nicholas's eyes snapped to him, golden fury blazing. And you betrayed me. You always wanted what was mine. Admit it. You want her. Silence. Every head turned to Damien. His jaw clenched, his gray eyes locking with mine. I do. His words fell like stones in water, ripping through the hole. But unlike you, I will not chain her. I will stand beside her if she wills it, or walk away if she does not. My heart twisted. The choice I had avoided, the truth I had feared, was here at last. 2 brothers. 1 crown. 1 heart. And me, standing at the center. The council demanded resolution. Killian's voice cut through the storm. Then let the moon decide. 1 final trial. The Silver Queen shall choose her path, and the goddess herself will bear witness. The chamber darkened. Moonlight pierced through the roof, striking the stones at my feet. Silver fire wrapped around me, lifting me from the ground. My wolf howled, the sound echoing beyond walls, beyond realms. Visions rushed through me, Nicholas, golden and fierce, his passion burning but destructive, Damien, shadowed and steady, his loyalty quiet but unyielding. 2 paths, 2 futures. The goddess whispered, choose, or all shall fall. The trial became battle. Nicholas rose, aura reigniting, golden fire spilling from his skin as if the goddess herself fueled his rage. Damien stepped into the circle, shadows weaving around him like armor. And I, caught between them, felt the fire of prophecy ignite once more. The council watched in silence as the brothers clashed, gold against gray, light against shadow. Their fury shook the hall, each strike echoing like thunder. Yet through it all, their eyes returned to me. Because this war was not theirs. It was mine. I stepped forward, silver flames surging, forcing them apart. Stop. My voice rang like a command. This ends now. Not with your blood. Not with your rivalry. With me. The goddess's power swelled, and suddenly, I understood. It was never about Nicholas. Never about Damien. It was about choice. I turned to Nicholas first. His body trembled, his eyes wild. Nicholas Den, I said, my voice heavy with power, you were my fated mate. But fate is not love. Fate is not freedom. I release you, not in anger, not in hate, but in mercy. Silver fire flared, severing the last threads of our bond. Nicholas screamed, collapsing, the golden fire extinguished once and for all. His head bowed, broken, not by me, but by himself. then I turned to Damien. His eyes held no demand, no chains, only silent waiting. I stepped close, silver flames dimming, my voice softer. And you are not fate. You are choice. My choice. His breath caught, his hand trembling as it brushed mine. Mira. The bond surged, not forced, not cursed, but free. Silver and shadow intertwined, a new bond forged, one not of prophecy but of will. The hall filled with light, the goddess's approval resonating in every heart. The council knelt. Wolves howled, voices rising in unison, Silver Queen. Queen of the twin alphas. I stood crowned not by blood, not by chains, but by choice. Nicholas broken but spared, Damien by my side, and the pack united not by fear, but by hope. The goddess's voice whispered in my soul, you have broken the curse. You have chosen love. Now lead. Under the silver moon, peace returned. The bright moon pack bowed to me, not as Nicholas's bride, but as their queen. The council recognized my crown, marking the first time in history a wolf was chosen beyond prophecy. Nicholas vanished into exile, his fire dim but his pride unbroken. Perhaps one day he would return, but not as alpha. Damien remained, my equal, my shadow, my mate. Together, we ruled, not as conquerors, but as guardians. And me? I was no longer the girl offered as a pawn. No longer the daughter of a weak alpha. I was Mira Parker. Silver Queen. And my reign had only just begun. And so I did.